There's a new book out. It's called When Zuma Goes. For some, it's a day that cannot come soon enough. For others, it's a dreaded day that should be delayed. My next guest, it's the title of his new book. It's The MoneyMakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. I'm joined by the author and political analyst at the Mapungubwe Institute of Strategic Reflection, Mathekga, to discuss his, yours, and my favorite political subject, who is Jacob Zuma. You've written the book. The book is After Zuma Goes. Have you put a time frame on it?
Well, I do have a time frame. I think that after the elective conference of the NC 2017.
December 2017.
December 2017. But it also depends a lot on the outcome of that December. I think that President Jacob Zuma is well focused on making sure that the leader who's going to come out of that elective conference has to come at least from his corner. And if the leader comes from his corner, you might see a well-managed exit, a gracious exit of President Jacob Zuma from politics. But if the leader comes from his opposing corner, then you might start having challenges. He might depart immediately after 2017. My sense is that he's likely to continue towards 2019, weakened as he might be, but he's likely to hold on to the end of the term in 2019.
Okay, lots of issues there that we need to go through. So, who is in his corner? Who is his number one preferred candidate?
I think that Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma is his number one preferred candidate. She seems to be preferred also by the so-called Premier League, who understood to be allies to President Jacob Zuma. The Youth League seems to be in on this. The Women's League seems to be in. The MKVA have not actually chastised her, which to me says that they might favor her. So it looks like she might be someone who is favored to emerge from the corner of President Jacob Zuma. But of course, we have to acknowledge as well, she does not necessarily have a credibility crisis. The only thing perhaps is the Zuma name. I think she can overcome that.
Okay, the other corner is led by whom?
The other corner, in my view, is Cyril Ramaphosa.
Still, silent Cyril.
Still very quiet, non-committal. If you look, I don't think he's fighting it the manner in which maybe he's expected to fight. You remember when he became deputy president, he came in by taking on the position of Kgalema Motlanthe. The votes might have not meant for him, might have been a vote against Motlanthe by then. I don't think he's likely to win the presidency this way. He's a very weak candidate going into this, and I think he's in a position actually to strike a compromise with the Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma faction. If that happens, he might be retained possibly maybe as number one or number two, and I think it will be on the terms of that faction.
Okay, so Zweli Mkhize into that mix. Where does he fit? Does he fit?
There are people who are saying that he could come out on the other faction, but he seems to be very close to Cyril Ramaphosa. I think that if there is any deal that could be cut for him, is for him to remain within the top six and for the party to stabilize, and maybe age still on his side. He could still wait a little bit, wait for another 2 terms before he makes a bid for the presidency.
Gwede Mantashe said the job of Secretary General is killing him. He ain't going for any re-election in 2017. I'm willing to put money on that particular one. So he will graciously retire. Baleka Mbete, there was a point where she was beginning to think that she should be putting her hat in the ring. Does she have a chance?
Look, I mean, Nkandla. I mean, she's the epitome of all things gone wrong in Parliament, and I think she knows that. First day when she comes, certainly I don't think EFF will be willing to listen to him. You need someone who can actually get EFF to sit through Parliament as well.
No, that's the biggest risk to my mind that Cyril Ramaphosa faces. Rightly or wrongly, he is tainted by Mathekga. He sent emails. Those emails were published in which he requests police help because the situation in Mathekga is getting out of control. Police behave badly on that day, but Cyril is tainted by police brutality on that particular day. Can he honestly become the next president of South Africa with the EFF as vocal and as theatric as it is?
I think the EFF will have a field day, but I also think from within the ANC, Bruce, there are those who I think might use the material that coming from Lone Min, from Mathekga, to say that this is not our man. I still think that he can be part of a compromise. There is that possibility. If he becomes the president, in my mind, there is no doubt that the EFF will go for private prosecution regarding his culpability in what happened happened in Marikana. The aim will not be to win anything. The aim will not be to put him behind bars, but just to keep the case going on so that they can disrupt him. I mean, his relationship with the private sector as well, at MTN while he was the chair, transfer pricing, you know better about that. I think those are the issues that I think the EFF will be able to latch on, but not to the proportion that they're doing when it comes to President Jacob Zuma. He will be disrupted, no doubt, but I think that he can get closer to finishing his speech.
When we look at the mess that is South Africa is descending into in terms of credibility of organs of state, and we look at the Sean Abrahams, the time for questioning the legitimacy, whatever it was, of the NPA is over, and less than 2 weeks later he challenges the decision of the NPA himself and withdraws charges against Pravin Gordhan. I mean, an extraordinary climb down under extraordinary public pressure. That's got to feed directly through to President Jacob Zuma. At some point, Zuma's got to go.
He has to go. And Bruce, I've put it out in the book that there is no intention to go to court on the side of the NPA. My sense has always, far back, been that the aim is to keep this case on, but never go to court so that they can frustrate Pravin to leave the office. Pravin didn't cave in. He has got massive support outside, or let's say significant support outside. And I think that when it comes to Sean Abrahams, he knows as a lawyer that this cannot go in court. And I think that's another one that went against Jacob Zuma when Abraham had to pull back those charges. The question here for me is that what is the next option? I don't think President Jacob Zuma is going to stop to try to get rid of Pravin Gordhan. And I also think that people tend to think that the only option to Pravin Gordhan is in the form of Des Van Rooyen, someone with a complete credibility crisis. No, there is a possibility of someone who the market can actually work with, someone who understands inflation, someone you can send to Davos, they can bring back good notes. There is that possibility of a compromise. I think that is going to be pursued.
Okay, so it doesn't really matter who has got the finance minister's job, as long as that person has credibility. What is it about the president and Pravin Gordhan?
You know, it's very clear. They don't get along, and the main problem as
well...
But
you will never get Pravin Gordhan, as hard as you push him, to ever badmouth the president. Even privately, even one-on-one, even walking down the street, he will never, ever do it.
You are so right. I shared a stage with him, closed-door discussion at the economist function. He wouldn't write on the president. But he does. He keep on repeating this thing about credibility of public institutions, about how, in my phrasing, how the ANC might have vandalized that public space where there is no longer credibility.
How long can the ANC tolerate what is going on within its own ranks? Because we talk about the ANC leadership contest in 2019 like it's an isolated incident, and then the next person to become leader of the ANC becomes president of the country in 2019. If the ANC continues on the slippery slope that it's on right now, based on the local government elections this year, their election is, they're going to have to fight hard to win a 2019 election with a candidate who's not sufficiently credible. And that candidate's got to be well in place and entrenched and prove themselves possibly ahead of 2019.
It's going to be very difficult for the ANC. It takes a long time to restore credibility of the people when it comes to public institutions. And I think that if you look at the factions within the ANC, of course, President Jacob Zuma's faction seems to prevail because he's still the president. But I also think there is a recognition within this faction that they are both weak. They cannot each pursue their objectives without running into credibility problem. I think there is a possibility of a compromise around finance minister even before you get to 2070. There is that possibility. Either you can find the compromise in the form of maintaining him, but making sure that you restrain some of his powers, like it has been the case with the appointment of a SAA board. I also think that there is a possibility that the ANC might say that, wait a minute, we need to have someone here. Can you, maybe in the interest of the organization and stability, step aside without saying bad things?
He's fallen for that one before. He went into local government under protest.
He did, but I think he was caught by surprise there. I think his return to Treasury, he was also very surprised to return to Treasury. Hence he's latching on and maintaining. But I think that within the ANC, there might be talks around who is the next possible compromise out of this. And I think that that solution might be bigger than Pravin himself.
Okay, so somebody's going to ask you this question. I'll be the first. When Zuma goes, okay, that's the title. It's anticipating an inevitable, and he can't go on forever.
Yes.
But somebody's going to say to you, what about Robert Mugabe? You could have written this book in Zimbabwe in 1992, let's say, or 1994, or 1995, or in 2000 as the situation in Zimbabwe declined. and he's still holding on, 90-something years old and fighting fit.
I think that there is something peculiar about South Africa. South Africans have got closer to doubting the legitimacy of those who exercise power much quicker than it has been the case. In the case of Zimbabwe, the so-called capture might have been intensified. In the case of South Africa, I don't think anyone can claim to have fully captured the state by any means. They are improvising around that. And that is why I think that even Zuma himself, I think, Bruce, if you were to have an opportunity to ask him, are you enjoying this? He might say that, you know what, I'm tired. I've had enough of this. But there are certain things I need to achieve before I go.
What does he need to achieve before he goes? Getting the monopoly, the chance card out of the monopoly game, the get out of jail free card is one.
Yes.
And that's the big one.
That's the big one, but that is also linked to what is it that he leaves behind for people who have actually got him going for this long time, people who have supported him. I think he cannot just pull the rug under their feet. If he does that, they will not be willing to protect him once he's gone. Remember, when he goes, irrespective of whether he appoints the Chief Justice or the Public Protector and so forth, things can just turn around very nasty. So he needs to hedge for his retirement to make sure that some people are well set so that it can be, they still have a motivation to protect him even when he's gone.
I mean, when one looks at the situation in Brazil, one looks at the president being impeached there, the former president being impeached there, he must be looking at his former chums from BRICS countries and going, Putin's got it right, he's in control,
Yes.
And Rousseff, well, she ain't in control anymore, and she's being persecuted for it. It's going to cause him, I suspect, to dig his heels in even deeper.
Well, he's very much concerned. I mean, we have had the Secretary General of the ANC looking at the BRICS, trying to come up with a point of analysis, say that countries in the BRICS are under strain. It's just two countries, possibly, South Africa and Brazil. India, they are having fun.
Yeah.
In China, there is one person who is in charge. Ping Jinping is in charge. So it's only in South Africa. But I think he's very much worried about what is going to happen once he retires. Hence, it matters a lot on how he leaves the chessboard.
I was in the bookshops this morning. I didn't see your book. When is it on the shelves?
It's supposed to be on the shelves. It's been on the shelves since last week.
Talk to your publishers.
It's been there. I'll talk to them.
Talk to the publishers. Talk to the publishers. The author and political analyst at the Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection, Mathekga, who's written the book When Zuma Goes. It's going to be a big seller. Make sure that you pick up your copy soon. Ralph's book, When You're Waiting for a Plane next time, or just waiting for a bus. Pick it up and you'll have a lot less fuss. That rhymed. Good night.